I can't believe what we just saw. Carved out of the red Georgian soil, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta sprawls through the hills of Brazelton. This 2.5-mile, 12-turn road course is one of the true American road racing challenges. Huge elevation changes, winding turns, and long straights characterize this course. Tonight, the Washington, D.C. region SCCA partners with the Vintage Racer Group for 2 races. The first with homologated GT3 machinery, and the second with the Volkswagen Jetta and Mazda MX-5. 25 minutes, and then 45, around one of the greatest road courses in the country. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Finian DeCuna and Greg Ginsburg as we tackle Road Atlanta. Greg, this track is challenging in a car with 200 horsepower, but it's an absolute scare in a GT3 car with nearly 500.
Yeah, and thanks for having me once again, Kyle and Finian. Definitely glad to be here. Yeah, I absolutely cannot imagine what it takes, the fortitude that it takes to come down through the S's in a 500 plus horsepower car, or to go down into turn 10A here at Road Atlanta with that kind of horsepower and be able to woe it down to such slow speeds. It's definitely got to be a challenge. As somebody who has driven many times at Road Atlanta in cars that have only 130, 140 horsepower, I know what a challenge it could be. And yeah, it's definitely going to be something that these VRG racers really are going to have to come to grips with very quickly.
And Finian, welcome back to Sim TV here tonight at Road Atlanta. This is GT3 racing. These cars are super fast. There's going to be drafting on this long back straightaway, but Road Atlanta, one of the great American road courses, GT3 cars here, it's a perfect fit. That is microphone muted. There you go.
There we go. I had to click on Discord to then unmute. But yeah, no, definitely great to be here with GT3 machinery, especially the diversity of the field. We got all of the GT3 cars, including the McLaren. There's one single McLaren, but enough to make it as diverse as it is. So it'll be interesting seeing the different makes up at the front of the field. Speaking of which, currently an Audi R8 leading the field. That's Christopher Lampers.
We're also joined tonight by, of course, Ian from VRG. Ian, welcome to the booth. You're going to be watching this from afar, but tonight we race GT3 cars around Atlanta. We've talked about this course, but this is the first time we've seen VRG here on Sim TV, so welcome to the booth here, and you're ready to enjoy this race.
Yeah, Kyle, Finian, Greg, thanks for having me this evening. Looking forward to it.
So qualifying is underway right now, and Finian mentioned Christopher Lapras is at the top of the board, and indeed he is, as we get, we're about a minute and a quarter away from finishing this out. As you see Lapras getting throttled up on the back straightaway. His best lap time of 1:18.595 at the moment. Thomas Layton in the number 1 car, he has already called it quits for this qualifying session here, Greg, but we've got a pretty full field, almost 30 cars here this evening. Your thoughts on how important qualifying is going to be tonight?
Well, it could be very important. You've just talked about Thomas Layton, who's got his car sitting back in the pits with about, looks like about 3 minutes left to go in qualifying. Probably not 3 minutes, about 45 seconds to go in qualifying, sorry. And Darren Treacle in the number 70 car, he is currently sitting, he was sitting about looks like 400ths of a second off of Tom Layton's fastest time. And so there's still a good chance that he could move up to the front row. Of course, with Road Atlanta and the layout here and how twisty it is, if you start in the middle of the pack and have to work your way up, it can definitely make things somewhat challenging. There are a lot of places on this track where there are not good passing opportunities, although, as we know, there are some very key corners that if you can carry speed, you can make your way back through the field.
So checkered flag about to fall here in qualifying. Any driver that has not yet started the lap will not be able to finish. Someone just barely got across the start-finish line. But now with qualifying concluding, the checkered flag is out. You see Lapras at the top of the board. I wanted to take this moment here, guys, to take a look at the track map for tonight's event, because I already mentioned Road Atlanta, 2.5 miles or thereabouts. Finney, why don't you take me through the first part of a lap here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta?
Yeah, and first off, as you're coming across the start-finish line down into turn 1, it's going to be very chaotic on the start. You could potentially see 3 wide down there if guys are bold enough, but after turn 1 through turn 2 and then up to turn 3, you're gonna definitely have to take a lot of curb. You gotta make sure you don't get too much curb. You got a cut course there, and then you go down through the S's, back left, back right, back left, then back right again, setting up for turn number 5.
Down in turn number 5, it's a left-hand corner that sets you up for 2 right-handers, turn 6 and 7. Greg, turn 7, one of the most important corners on this course.
Absolutely. It is the slowest corner on this course, and it is vitally important that you get a good run out because you have a very long back straightaway here at Road Atlanta. As you go and you take a look now, coming through turns 8 and 9 on that straightaway, believe me, you don't really feel the elevation change there until you start to make your run down to turn 10. And actually, that is split into 2 turns, turns 10A and 10B. As you come down into turn 10, it is going to be the heaviest braking that you do on this entire track as you slow down probably from around 150 miles an hour down to under 100, and then make your way back up under the bridge and then set up for turn 12, downhill right-hander onto the front straight, and it is a gut check turn. You need to be prepared for that turn, and there's nothing like it in road racing.
Taking a look at our qualifying results here in just a moment, and there's a look. Christopher Lapras, the best driver. He will be sitting on pole position for this 25-minute race. Of course, Ian, welcome again. We've just got qualifying underway. Tell me a little bit about the Vintage Racer Group and this virtual racing league that you've got going on here tonight.
Yeah, sure thing, Kyle. So Vintage Racer Group, obviously vintage road racing based primarily out of the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic region, typically running at tracks like Summit Point, Watkins Glen, occasionally make a trip out to Lime Rock, as well as a pit race here near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And obviously with this year, we aren't able to get to the track, so Jim Karamanis said, let's start an iRacing league, and we've had regular 20 or so drivers come out that are used to running cars built in the 50s and the 60s with 70 horsepower, now running around these modern machines with 600 or 700 horsepower. So it's been a great time so far.
So taking a look at the weather information here before we get going green tonight, pretty cool track temperatures out here, Finney. And I would expect that's going to be, there's a lot of grip out there for these drivers, but got to make those tires nice and toasty before you turn them loose here for about 25 minutes worth of racing.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key thing too, especially on the first lap, is just making sure you know that you're going to have a little bit less grip for these opening few corners and the opening few laps. And then once you get past the first lap or two, then you can start making, I guess, more bull moves into certain corners. But definitely the first few corners, we could see some trouble arise due to that.
Greg, obviously turn number 1 here at Road Atlanta is a pretty daunting excursion. It's high speed, right-hander uphill, 4th or 5th gear depending on your track or your car tonight. As you come up through turn number 1 though, on lap number 1, what's the key here? I mean, we've got almost 30 cars. How aggressive are you going to be? A 25-minute race is not long, so are you waiting until the back straightaway start making your moves, or are you going to be aggressive right out of the gate and try to get ahead before you hit the S's?
Well, I think probably the biggest question is going to be how confident do the drivers feel with those cold tires underneath them. I would typically, as we go into turn 1 here and start to make my way up the hill for the first time, try to make a couple of moves, try to pick up at least a couple of positions to set myself up for a little later in the race. But knowing that if you don't get things done at turn 1, you're likely going to have to wait until you get out of turn 5, and you may find that you're under attack from there. So I would try to at least start moving my way up through the field, going through turn 1 on the way up the hill towards turn 3.
Benny, let's roll through the starting lineup here. On the front row this evening, it's going to be Christopher Lapras in the number 15 and Thomas Layton in the number 1. He'll roll off on the outside of the front row in his Mercedes.
Yeah, moving on back, we find Jaron Treacle in the 71st BMW in the field. Next to him, Evan Chickle is going to line up in the 17 in 4th.
Back in 5th place will be Robert Porter in the number 136, and Ian Ditson in the number 10. He'll be on the outside of row number 3.
Back in 7th place is going to be Nick Babin lining up in the 41. Next to him in 8th is going to be Mark LeBant in the 23.
In 9th place, out of the inside, Spencer Patterson in the 79. Then Dave Fitzgerald in a Golf BMW this afternoon. He'll roll off 10th in his 91.
Stefan Vapla going to line up in the 97 and 11. Next to him, Robert Hines in the 24 going to line up in 12th.
In 13th, Clark Olstrom in the number 20, and Jim Karamanis in the 272. He starts 14th in row number 7.
Moving back to 15 is going to be Shane Daggett in the 28. Next to him, Robert Lang is going to line up in the 40.
John Wood starts 17th in the 36, and Ralph Padgington in the 274 starts 18th. We're going to let the rest of those scroll along the bottom of the screen because we're already exiting turn number 7 and on the back straightaway here, Greg. This is such an important straightaway, as we alluded to earlier. Getting the run down into 10A, is that really the best passing opportunity on this racetrack, or is there somewhere else you'd rather be making your moves?
Well, it is definitely the place where most drivers are going to try and make the move. You can get a very good draft coming down this long back straight. You have to make your intentions known fairly early, though, as you come through to get to the inside to try and outbrake somebody into turn 10A before you start to make your way back up the hill. Most of the other passing opportunities are going to be based here at Road Atlanta on how much speed you can carry through a corner and whether or not you can make up a little bit of extra ground on exit. But a lot of the passing opportunities are not very long after those types of corners, like a turn 1, like a turn 5 heading down to turn 6 as well. So turn 10A, the best opportunity as our leaders come down the hill through turn 12 for the start.
Green flag flies, 25 minutes of racing here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Vintage Racer Group action as they head down into turn number 1. Engines screaming, 3 wide in the middle of the field. There's Dave Fitzgerald, the 91. He's swarming either side with the Mercedes. They head into the first corner, get tucked in line. Lapras leads the way up the hill by a couple tenths of a second over Leighton as they head to turn 3, Finian.
Yeah, absolutely. And here they go through turn 3, up and over the curves for a lot of these drivers. Now down through the SCCA, some side-by-side action midfield as well.
Getting really condensed and tight, but Greg, as you get strung out here, the only goal is really to not have an incident here on lap number 1. Just settle in, get your car in the direction that you want it to go, and go forward. We got Evan Schickel. He's had an issue at the exit of turn number 5. Such a common area, Greg, to have an incident.
It certainly is. If you get the turn in, it looks like we have a couple more cars that have just gone off. John Wood in the 36 car in that British Racing Green German. And we've got lots of cars here coming. This is coming out of turn 6, going into turn 7. Looks like Dave Fitzgerald with an issue there in that Gulf liveried car with Nick Babin in the 41, as they're now finally making it out onto out through turn 7 onto the back straight for the first time.
Yeah, just looking at upon further review with Fitzgerald, it's just a matter of getting loose into turn 6. So we're talking about a cold tires being early, and you got to watch out. It's already catching some drivers out.
Yeah, and turn 6, Finian, it is a very heavily cambered corner. It's very deceptive that drivers think they might have more grip coming through there in the early stages than they really do. And I think we saw where Fitzgerald ended up going around, as we now have a little argy-bargy coming down the hill through turns 11 and 12.
Yeah, that's a little spatial disagreement. Both Jim Karametis and Shane Daggett, they get kind of hooked together and couldn't get unstuck as there's more trouble up the road. There's Ralph Pagington and Michael Shueri in the 27, so he's had an incident as well. And that was just 2 cars fighting over a space on the racetrack, and they're both going to have a lot of crash damage to deal with as we go back up to the front. Lapras in the 15 leads the way. Leighton in second, though. Finian, we saw these cars in practice have excellent pace. I think we're going to see these two go head-to-head in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Just loving the diversity of the top 5. You're talking about in qualifying too. It's an Audi, then Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Mercedes. Your top 5, and all these guys chasing down one another. But Lapras already pulling it decently, but Leighton trying to keep him in check.
Robert Porter's just had a spin here as he's going to back out of the racing line, and so far a little bit of a messy start for some of the drivers towards the tail here, Ian. But this is not an easy combination. We talked about Road Atlanta being one of the more difficult racetracks in this country. Narrow, fast, lots of tall curves. Get yourself in trouble here early.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as we found in our own racing series, the VRG, a lot of these guys still getting used to being in a sim and the differences between what kind of feedbacks you got and when you can actually feel the car start to let go. So there's a lot that our guys are learning, but I know they're having fun. And there's been some really great racing here. I know Darren Treacle's won the first 3 races out of our series and got pipped in the 4th race by Spencer Patterson. So I think we're looking forward to some good racing as this goes on.
Absolutely. So a couple minutes into this race, a few laps down so far. There's Darren Trinkle right here in 3rd after starting in 3rd. So he's got a good start going for him. He's got Ian Ditson behind, who started 6th, and he's gained 2 spots here early, Greg.
Yeah, he's starting to make his way back up onto Treacle. Now, maybe you could tell me, with the BMW, it doesn't appear to have some of the straight line speed that the Audi and the Mercedes do, and it looks like we've got right now Schickel starting to make up some ground on some of these longer runs on the BMW. So Treacle might not have picked the best horse for this particular course here.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of differences between these GT3 cars, and the BMW is known in iRacing as typically one of the better handling cars, even though it's not necessarily the lightest thing out there in existence. It's pretty good at handling the corners. The Mercedes has got all sorts of torque, but that Audi, it is on edge. It will spin like a top, just like the McLaren will if you get things wrong. But it's also really, really fast. It's a good all-around vehicle, and that's what Ian Ditson is using to his advantage right now as he comes down the hill through turn number 12 and sets his sights on that podium spot right now, Finian, with 20 minutes to go.
closing in by quite a bit, made up 2/10 the lap prior. This time by made up 2/10 as well. So really starting to get into the back of Treacle here. He's effectively caught him. The hard part now is trying to get past Treacle in that safety car.
Yeah, and as they make their way down through the S's here, you'll notice that they're pretty evenly matched through the twisty portions of this Road Atlanta course. The question will be now, when they come now through out of turn 5, head into turn 6, if that Audi can dig and get a good run out of that very slow corner, turn 7, and we're going to be able to see that here in just a moment.
That turn number 7 is such a crucial and critical corner on this racetrack, and I think, Greg, you likened it to Oak Tree at VIR, and the tight hairpin sort of corner with a big curve on the inside that leads you onto this long back straight. These corners share a lot of similarities.
Yeah, very much so. It is, again, a very slow corner. It really requires you to look ahead, and unfortunately at Road Atlanta, turn 7, you can't spot your way very much through the corner. The exit of turn 7 drops off a little bit, and you really have to kind of go by feel, and that is, again, critical as they make their way onto that long back straight in order to be able to carry as much speed as possible, as we see now that battle for third now coming onto the front straight.
Here is Robert Porter in the 136 closing in on the BMW. Two German giants, BMW and Mercedes, nose to tail here, Finian, as they climb the hill. The torque of that Mercedes.
Whoa.
Look at him. He's going to go to driver's left as leg. It's all sorts of sideways at the exit of turn number 10. They touch.
To him, and the leg goes flying off the track into the concrete barrier. Was struggling to get the torque from that BMW under control.
Have a look here.
Loose to the top of the hill.
And had the Mercedes right behind him. Here is a look at the replay here as he crests the hill. This was struggling to really get that car under control. And yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, unfortunately lost a lot of speed going from driver's left back over to driver's right, and then trying to set up for turn 12 over on driver's left again. The Mercedes really didn't have a good idea of where that BMW was going.
Up front, Christopher Lapras continues to lead by 1.1 seconds over Thomas Layton. He was a 10th quicker than the one car last time. I'm not sure this fight is totally done. Neither is the one for make that 6th place. That's Robert Hines in the number 24 BMW. Then it's a Mercedes and then an Audi. So they're all going to streak down to 10A. Hines, Vappa, and Patterson, 6, 7, 8.
Now, of course, Robbie Hines, he is a former national champion in SCCA road racing, T3 national champion, and I believe he's been doing iRacing since 2010, so he's got a lot of experience under his belt here. He may be the most experienced of this trio. We'll just have to see if he can hold on to the position in that BMW.
Saw Hines run just slightly wide at the exit of turn 12, and Finian, that's a terrifying spot to drop a wheel. You get over the edge of that curve and you hook it just a little bit wrong and you're going to go for a ride.
Yeah, and you really at that point just kind of have to try to keep the car as straight as possible. You continue to turn, you're going to go spinning into the pit lane wall, so you got to be really careful, especially when you're dropping a wheel. And even here as they work through turn 5, you want to make sure you don't drop off a wheel on the sand chip on the right side. We've seen in several different series with GT cars, guys getting a little bit too ambitious with the track limits and dropping wheels off and spinning out.
Yeah, and for Ian, this is a racetrack that, there is some runoff room, but it's not like tracks like VIR where if you go off, you might not hit something. Here at Road Atlanta, if you go off, you're going to hit something, and it'll probably be pretty hard.
Yeah, I watched the race last night here at Road Atlanta. I was thinking the exact same thing. Not a whole lot of room, but it's funny that you mentioned not having a lot of room. We're watching Stefan Vappa run around. He's very familiar with Pittsburgh's Vintage Grand Prix at the Shenley Park course, which is a bunch of hay-bale chicanes, telephone poles, and granite walls. So Stefan is certainly one who's familiar with racing in tight confines.
They're taking advantage of every inch of it. You see the curve at the exit at 10B. That'll shake your teeth out in the real world, and Vappa using a little bit of it to carry some speed down the hill. Meanwhile, up at the front, Lapras that time through was 6/10 slower than Layton. So Layton's found some pace in this car, Greg. Got the tires warmed up, and he's got his setup right where he wants it as he chases down the 15 car.
Yeah, he's definitely making up a lot of ground, and he's using those curbs to his advantage. You can see as they come down through the downhill S's here at Road Atlanta that the curbs have a lot of height to them. They really have the opportunity to unsettle a car, but Layton seeming to do a very good job with it, able to keep everything under control as he comes through turn 7 here.
Yeah, and I was just looking at the last lap through for Lapras. He's actually held up by a lap car through the final section of the track, and looking at the lap times, he was 6/10 slower, so that's allowed Layton to get back here and got to pick up some of the draft. So he's effectively caught Lapras Lapras now. It's just a matter of trying to draft back up and then make that final pass.
You can see him weaving down the back straightaway here, Greg, to try to break that draft, and that tells me that Leighton's in Lapras' head here just a little bit. Lapras wouldn't do that if he didn't think Leighton could get back to him, so I think he's a bit nervous with that car chasing him down.
You know, I was just thinking about that because even the lap before we saw that Leighton was flashing the headlights at Lapras coming over the crest of the hill on the back straight there, and he appeared to be about 15 car lengths back. But I think Lapras is spending a lot more time looking in his rearview mirror. Of course, he's now going to have to start worrying about some of that backmarker traffic right ahead of him as they head down into the S's.
Oh, that's Blake Chesbro in the number 9 Mercedes, and Lapras is going to find a way to the inside. Now Leighton is going to have to take a huge run of speed just to the inside and slice and dice right through the middle. Great move there by Leighton to get by and actually gain a ton of time on Lapras as they exit the corner here.
That's the second time we've seen Lapras, that Lapras has really struggled with lap traffic, and it's cost him so much time. Leighton's effectively right in behind me here and trying to make a move, trying to have a look down into 6.
Looks like Robert Hines has had an issue. He's going to hit pit lanes in the 24, so whatever issue he's had has relegated him to pit road. Meanwhile, for the race lead, though, nose to tail, 0.3 of a second. Now the slipstream here, Greg, that's going to be the dominant factor here, as long as Leighton can stay within a second.
Yeah, and he was coming out of turn 7 a heck of a lot closer than that. Does not look like he got nearly as good a jump out of turn 7 back straight, but as Lapras goes right into the back of one of the back marker cars, and we'll get the number on that in a second.
It was, I believe, Scott, was it? No, it wasn't Nettleship.
Kurt Uzbey in the 42.
Yeah, the 42 car, that was big, a big hit for Lapras. How damaged is the car? The advantage here is that the Audi is a mid-engine platform, so there won't be an engine concern for the 15, but certainly the aerodynamics. Greg had just alluded to the fact that Lapras is pulling away on the straights. Any aero advantage he just had is completely gone. Let's go back and take a look. Down into 10A here, Greg, and I think Lapras just misjudges this, and
Yeah, well, and you can see how quickly or how early the 42 got on the brakes going into 10A, and I don't even know if it's a question of Lapras misjudging it. I think he just got completely caught unawares there. You can see he wasn't even on the brakes for another 100 yards, or 100 feet, pardon me.
Just telescopes up underneath the 42, so now we're going to see how badly this 15 car is damaged as we head back live. Leighton is now 9/10 back, and that's a huge advantage to the trailing car now, with the draft and the lead car with significant damage, Finian.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is really a chance for Leighton to try to make up some ground here. Though he actually lost quite a bit of ground to Lapras over the last lap, so he's going to have to try to reel him back in. Another lap car is ahead of these drivers here, and it's going to go off the track, back here right in front of the leaders.
That, I believe, was Nettleship in the 63, so he'll pull his very damaged Mercedes off course. There in the background, you see, I believe that was Darren Treacle going by. He's got Ian Ditson behind him. That is the battle for third, for the last step on the podium, up for grabs as well. So battle for first and battle for third, Greg. Things are heating up as we're about halfway through this race with 12.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice that how much ground they've started to make up on our 2 leaders, on Lapras and Leighton, after that incident going down into turn A, that we may have soon enough a 4-car battle for the lead.
Through turn 5, and Leighton has to take advantage of this, Finney, and you can't let the leader drive away with you with a damaged race car. So he was getting close before. It should just be helping him right now for that leader to have damage. But Treacle and Ditson, they're having a great battle behind as well.
Yeah, and still have not seen this change guard. I'm actually quite surprised. Ian caught up to Treacle quite a bit, and it's just kind of been sitting in behind him for the rest of this race. So curious what's really been holding up this 10.
Speeds climbing well north of 150, 160 miles an hour for the race lead here, Greg, and that makes your decision-making that much more important at the speeds that you're dealing with here. And one wrong move, as we saw earlier, can really have a big impact on your outcome of the race here.
Absolutely, that second or so, or actually less than a second, half a second of difference in braking going down into 10A can really lead to what we saw just a few laps ago with that really major impact there as our leaders come through turn 1 now. But, you know, as we're watching here, I'm maybe not surprised, but Lapras's car doesn't seem to be affected all that much.
I was just going to say, I was just looking at their speed going down into turn 10. Lapras actually 2 miles an hour faster than Leighton going down into turn 10.
So that tells me, Greg, that maybe it's something in the setup for the 15 car where he's got very little wing in that car and he's just driving it loose, whereas Leighton might have some more stability built into it, but he's paying for it between turn 7 and 10.
Exactly, and I think that's exactly what the deal is now. I mean, I'm a little surprised given the hit that we didn't see any kind of front suspension damage also to the front of that Audi that might have been affecting things, and maybe we'd see a little bit extra wheel scrub on the front. But no, looks like, as you said, I think Leighton probably just has a little bit more trim on the wing, which definitely is helping him down through the corners where he seems to make up a lot of ground. But as you see here, as he comes out of turn 7, that he just doesn't seem to have the ultimate straight line speed.
Leighton snuck down the inside there as well. That was a hairy moment as the two race leaders go on by. Treacle and Ditson also get through. Still 0.4 of a second between them as we have 10 minutes to go here, Finian. It's wild out there right now. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it really is. The funny thing is that they actually asked for that car to pull to let them on by. I think that was a lot more interesting than what both Lapras and Leighton were hoping for, getting on by the lap car. But now continuing on, yeah. So, looking to see if there's any more lap traffic. We seem to be a factor for quite a few times for the leaders here, and I think that's what kind of Leighton's hoping for here, as Lapras is pulling away.
Yeah, he is pulling away, but Darren Treacle is not from Ditson, and I think Ditson's been biding his time here, Greg, but with 9.5 minutes to go, you're starting to think about making that pass. He runs a little wide at the exit of 5, though.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself how long is too long, and at this point, with still just a little bit under 10 minutes left to go, I think Ditson still has plenty of time there. Obviously, there's nobody challenging that pair from behind currently, so I think if he just sits there, he's going to still have an opportunity to check and see where Darren Treacle has some weaknesses around this track and decide whether or not turn 10A is the best place, or maybe he may see some other weaknesses for Treacle and maybe pick another place on the course to catch him unawares.
You were asking earlier about the differences between the cars, Greg, but Finian, I think this goes to show you that the Audi, you were seeing with Lapras and Leighton, even with damage, is still able to pull away, and the Mercedes is not slow in a straight line by any stretch of the imagination. It's one of the faster cars, but it does seem like that Audi, when trimmed out properly, really has a ton of straight line speed.
Yeah, that's what I also think we're seeing too, is a difference in setup, or at least the philosophy behind it, having more downforce, but also, sacrifice straightaway speed and stability, and just kind of managing the difference between the two. Lapras, I think, has really figured out the car. It is amazing the fact that he has a damaged nose, and that car is still driving very well.
Well, there's lots of lap traffic coming up here, Greg. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, the other thing I'm noticing is as both of those cars go through turn 3 at the top of the hill, and we've noticed this a couple laps in a row, a lot of it has to do with entry. Now, I talked about how the Mercedes looked very good going over the curbs and seemed to soak things up, but you'll notice that Lapras, when he goes into turn 3, he's actually hanging the right side wheels all the way over the backside of the curbing, and it's as if he wasn't jumping the curbing at all, and he's able to get the power down, I think, a lot earlier, not only at turn 3, but a number of other corners compared to Tom Leighton.
Yeah, the turn 3 curbing, and Finian knows this from experience riding with Luke McGrew in the Challenger at Grid Life last year, is the curbing there is full commitment. You either hit it with all 4 tires and you completely jump it, or you don't hit it at all, because if you do that awkward, just the right side tires on it, it's going to throw you way off track, and really, if you avoid it completely, you're just going to be slow. So the only option, really, to make time is take 4 tires up and over the top of it, Finian.
Yeah, it really is, and it's the quickest line. It's such a narrow corner here. Speaking of it, heading down into here, Lapras is going to go side by side with a lap car.
And he comes to an almost dead stop to avoid contact, and I might have been a little bit of a touch there behind him. There's Treacle, and actually Ditson's lost a ton of time. Treacle side by side with the lap car as they head down the hill, so that's added some separation there as well. But Ditson got held up with another lap car, maybe this Mercedes in front of him, so really frantic here as they work through lap traffic.
Yeah, he's having a lot of trouble. There's actually another car in behind, or I think it was the Mercedes, Michael Buttrick in the 14. And yeah, so a lot of lap traffic being quite a bit of a problem for P2, 3, and 4.
So looking back in hindsight now, when you asked me whether or not Schickle should have taken the move, as we see Buttrick go around there in that in the Racer Green VW, or probably not VW. Actually, that's the Spitfire liveried German car. Maybe Schickle should have taken that move a little bit earlier on Treacle, knowing now that he's had so much trouble with back marker traffic.
Yeah, I think that's, you can't really ever give up an opportunity thinking you might get another one later, because it's never guaranteed. 6 minutes left to go here. Finian looks pretty comfortable out front.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last lap through was the second fastest faster than him. Obviously, the lap traffic is at play, but now he's really starting to run out of time here. We're looking at about 5 laps to go. Coming to 4 next time by, so really running out of laps here. I honestly can't really see Leighton coming back up to Lapras. I think Lapras is just going to manage the gap, if not pull away.
Done an excellent job managing this race, even though he had the contact. He didn't panic, didn't freak out about it, Greg. He just put his head down and continued driving. Even with that damage, he's been running off some of the best lap times we've seen in this race, so he continues to run in the race lead, and he would go leading this race from start to finish if he can make it another 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's run a very, other than that one incident, he's run a very smooth, very strong race here as he continues to stretch things out over Leighton. And yeah, I keep watching Darren Treacle to see if he's making up any ground on Tom Leighton at this point. And it looks as though he's running very similar lap times, but doesn't seem to be really making up any ground here as they roll down the hill with, it looks like about what now, about 4 laps to go.
Yeah, so Treacle's last lap was at 1:19.486, and that was only about a tenth off his best time. It was a half a tenth or a tenth slower than Thomas Leighton up in front of him, but about a half a second faster than Ditson behind him. So he's kind of in no man's land, a little bit of an understeer moment there through turn 3 Finian, but Treacle's set for a very solid podium night if he can just finish this out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if he's going to try to push maybe to catch Leighton, or if anything, just hope that he makes a mistake. But it's maybe still trying to mount the pressure on the one, because it still isn't over yet. We still have quite a few laps to go, and anything really could happen.
Lapras sets up for the back straightaway here, and the closest battle on the racetrack is really kind of dissipated. Lapras continues to extend his lead on Leighton here. So we also have, well, we have a bit of a lull in the action here. We have the WDCR SCCA region race right after this one. It'll be the Volkswagen Jetta TDI and the Mazda MX-5 Cup in a multi-class format right after the conclusion of this race. We'll also announce the 2020 Season 3 schedule, which will be starting up relatively soon, as well as a special event for next Friday at Road Americas. Make sure you stay tuned to find out more about next season's schedule and how you can participate in the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League right here on Sim TV. So 3.5 minutes to go. That's about 3 laps worth of racing. Lapras comes on through, continues to extend his gap on Leighton, but that time only by 1,000th of a second. Greg, still very tight between those front two, at least in terms of lap time.
Yeah, but that small amount, that's not going to get Thomas Leighton anywhere closer to that top spot on the podium. As we see Dave Fitzgerald putting the car around, coming out of turn 7. He's got Robbie Hines sitting right behind him. Let's take a look here as he comes in. Now looks like Fitzgerald, if you remember, had issues just on the very first lap, and it looks like he just overcooked it coming out of turn 7.
Easy to do. Again, they're a little bit hot. The car will come around on you, even with the massive rear aero balance, but from that huge rear wing on this car, but not a lot of downforce being generated at the 50 or 60 you're taking turn number 7. So he'll get back rolling just outside the top 10. He is the 3rd car 1 lap down as we come down to 2.5 minutes left in this race. Lapras working his way down a very long back straightaway here and into the braking zone for turn 10A.
Yeah, deep into the brake stream, he's got quite a few lap cars up ahead. Robert Lang and Ralph Salomon in the 98 car. Just up the road.
Yeah, you mentioned the Lapras, and it's been a dicey moment for Lapras so far as he sees them run side by side into turn number 1. Whoa. Car off the racetrack, and he'll be on by before it's a factor.
Whoa, and Leighton had a little close miss with the Ferrari coming up the hill.
Now Darren Treacle has his turn.
Worst place to catch a lap car here. There's not really many places to go. He's going to pull to the right and get by.
He's on through.
Laughlin lets him by. Laughlin's had some issues this race. I think he's gone around a couple of times now, and currently a number of laps down.
So next time by will be white flag for Lapras. He leads by 2.5 seconds, and that car is looking like it's going to be very expensive to repair later. But thankfully in iRacing, you just hit the reset button.
Yeah, you just hit one button and it's all fixed. So that's actually pretty good. My mistake, actually, that wasn't Ryan Laughlin. That was Ralph Solomon that they had gone by down through the S's. There he is, the number 98 car.
10A, 10B for Lapras on lap number 18 of 19 as we come up the hill in turn number 11. Car gets light, then the compression down through turn number 12. White flag in the air one more time around. Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the Vintage Racer Group. Combined with the DC Region SCCA tonight. See Leighton in the background there and just continues to slip backwards, and he had the pace earlier, and I'm not sure what happened. Even after, it seems like after the damage, Lapras got better, and Leighton has just kind of stayed the same throughout this race, unable to close the gap.
Yeah, honestly, it could be a myriad of things. I think maybe he might have pushed too hard, might have burned up his tires, potentially. That's just kind of my guess as to what happened to him. But it's kind of surprising me, because I think almost all three of us expected him to catch back up to Lapras.
Exactly. Now, he had a lot of very good luck with lap traffic very early in the race, but he certainly hasn't had that great luck later on. And you can see here is he makes easy work of this car going into turn 7. But, we've seen where he's gotten caught up behind cars going up into turn 3 and down through the S's at very inopportune times, where Lapras, as the race has transpired, has had a little bit less of a problem with that traffic.
Christopher Lapras started this race up right at the front in pole position. Came down to qualifying. It was an important place to be because the issues behind them were mostly out of Lapras' way until he ran into the back of a lap car early in the going, but it hasn't affected him. He'll come out of turn number 12. Checkered flag waves for Chris Lapras from flag to flag. He wins the Vintage Racer Group Challenge at Road Atlanta. In the 25-minute race across the line, smacks the wall, and he'll finish that one off. It was a write-off anyway. Here's battle for 4th. This is Mark Labance to the inside, pass for position. In the final corner, up the inside goes Labance, and he's going to clear Ditson as they come down the hill. That's for 4th, and Labance grabbed it. What a pass there in the final sector.
Yeah, Ditson had something occur to him the lap prior as damage to the wing, and for Labance, he's able to just pick up one more spot.
That's a frustrating way to end for Ditson. He'll still get a top 5 out of that. Here's Stefan Vappa in the number 97. He'll come down the hill. 6th place for him. Robert Porter in 7th. And Robert Lang is already a lap down. So there's only 7 cars in the lead lap after that race. But for Lapras, a race win for him in the number 15. Here is a look at your race results. His best lap, a 1:18.905. But Greg, 0 lead changes because Lapras led from flag to flag.
Yeah, he got a great start when the green flag flew. He'd stepped out to almost a 3-car length lead over Leighton, and he never looked back. He was looking back for quite some time, but still managed to hold on to the win for a flag-to-flag victory.
Ian, certainly some good racing out there, especially up inside the top 5. Your thoughts after Lapras wins that one in dominating fashion at Road Atlanta?
Lapras certainly has to thank his crew when he gets it back into the paddock and they put that car back together. Amazing how that Audi kept up after running into the back of lap traffic. Certainly you got to wonder if Ian Ditson, who I believe is probably one of the younger ones in the field at age 18, is regretting that patience he was showing when running down Darren Treacle, because obviously it didn't work out for him in the end there. But I think we saw some exciting racing here. I know the VRG guys are really excited about picking up this race and being the opening act for the Washington, D.C. region SCCA in the iRacing series. So exciting stuff, and congrats to our winner this evening.
All right, with that, we're going to jump to break because we got to get loaded up and ready to go racing for the DC region event. The Volkswagen Jetta TDIs and MX-5s in just a few minutes. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back live to Sim TV in the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League. We're here now for our final race of the evening, a 45-minute enduro with the Volkswagen Jetta TDI and Mazda MX-5. Well, welcome back, Finian and Greg. Finian, this is an interesting car class combination. I don't think we've ever actually had the TDI Jetta on a broadcast before for Sim TV, so this is a big unknown coming into the night.
Yeah, very is, and I mean, it's not surprising we haven't had it, because honestly, to be quite honest, a very forgettable car. I have to be reminded that it's a part of the
well, you know, if you like cars and with too much compression in their shocks, and if you like watching cars on two wheels, which I'm sure going over the curbing at turn 3, we'll probably see quite a bit of bicycling from those Jettas. That won't be forgettable.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. I do know, as qualifying has concluded and we're getting ready to go racing here, that they're very close on lap times. The first and second overall cars, it was our two class leaders. So DJ Alessandrini and Elias Roman both leading their respective classes. We are going to be separating the field by category. The TDIs will be up front, but we saw that DJ was actually the overall pole sitter. So he's actually going to be behind a lot of cars that were slower than him. So that's going to be really interesting to watch on the race start here.
And look at the time. There's actually a significant difference from DJ, who's first in the Miatas, to second place in the Miatas in the 87. There's about a 7/10 difference in time.
That really doesn't surprise anybody. We know how good TJ is. But,
yeah, that is true.
But he's going to be intermingling with the Jettas, and these cars, Greg, drive totally differently. It's a completely different mindset, which tells me that it's going to be an interesting ride out there for DJ.
Yeah, absolutely. These cars are making their times in very, very different ways. Of course, the Miatas are very good handling cars, but I think they also have quite a bit more straight line speed than the Jettas do. And you know, I was alluding to the and that is a great helmet design there from Colin Tanner with with his Bender helmet there. It looks like that. You know, the Jettas, they don't spend a lot of time on four wheels, and they definitely don't have optimum shocks, but they do actually corner rather well. But the TDIs, as you can imagine, they are diesel cars. They've got a lot of torque. They can jump off of corners, but it doesn't take long to rev those motors out completely.
So there's DJ, and you know, the interesting thing is we only have a handful of Jettas. The rest of the field is all MX-5s. I think we got, what, 6?
I think we have 6. We have 6 Jettas.
Oh boy. Well, here's a look at your weather for this afternoon's race. Track surface temp a little bit warmer than we saw in the VRG race a little bit ago. So I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, but very different vehicles. And no one ran or will be running both races here this evening. Again, I don't think it was possible to run the other one and then make it in good time.
I see Dave Fitzgerald, although he didn't set a qualifying time, which shouldn't be a surprise since he had just jumped out of the other race, but we'll have to see.
It's not really going to matter for him. He's only going to be starting 6. So
yeah, exactly. He's only going to be starting 3 rows back. Exactly. All right, so why don't we run down the grid real quick? I'll take the Jettas since I can count to 6 and not much further than that.
I'll let Finian do the rest because my timing and score to be all messed up because of the intermixing between categories here. So, Greg, you got the Jettas, and Finian, you can take away the MX-5s.
Sounds good. All right, so starting on the front row, our pole sitter for today's race, it is Elias Roman in the number 99 car, with Ken Hausiel sitting on the outside of the front row in the 21. On the second row, Kevin Sue will be starting in 3rd position, with Francois Brou in the number 69 car starting 4th. And then the 3rd and final row for the Jettas, Joe Camilleri will be starting 5th. Dave Fitzgerald, who we mentioned just a few moments ago, will be starting 6th.
And moving on back to the Miata field, it's going to be DJ Alessandrini, no surprise, with him starting 1st in class. Next to him, it's going to be Mark Shirvastada.
Yeah, there we go. That was creative. But
starting 2nd in class. Next, right behind them, it's going to be Ryan Maloney, then Jay King. Row behind them, it's going to be Sam Scott, David Stern, and then Daniel Cross and Khalil Shirabov is going to round out your top 10 in class.
All right, so heading down the back straight away here. 45 minutes. This is a significantly longer race than we just saw. A lot slower cars. So there's some strategy to be had here for the MX-5s especially, because to keep up with DJ, you're going to have to do a lot of work, as Greg knows from watching the SCCA Esports Super Tour. You got to find a group of buddies, because you're not going to all be able to keep up with DJ. You're going to pick 2 or 3 drivers and work really hard to keep up with them.
Yeah, without a doubt, there's really the pace that Alessandrini keeps. It's very difficult if you don't have the draft and you're not working with somebody to keep that up, as we have the VWs coming down the hill right now to take the green flag.
Sounds like there are RC cars out that can barely hear them as they come across the start-finish line. The green flag out, 45 minutes on the clock. Elias Roman leads them down side by side behind them. That's Francois Brou and Dave Fitzgerald lining up in fourth. And meanwhile, the MX-5 field, a huge scramble of them down to the green flag as DJ Alessandrini and Ryan Maloney get clear of the rest of the field. There's, wow, 30 MX-5s out there right now.
All right, and as they come into turn one, kind of what I expected to see with Maloney and maybe Shrivastava, not all that far off the back of Alessandrini. And, you know, as we were talking about drivers teaming up and working together, I have a feeling that you might see Shrivastava and Jake King, two New Jersey drivers, starting to work together, and that may be the pairing that keeps up with Alessandrini. But as we've seen both here at Road Atlanta, earlier on the E-Super Tour season, and also most of the other tracks I've seen Alessandrini, it's going to be a little hard to keep them together. It looks like we have a car that's gone around coming down through the S's for the first time.
Bit of a stack up. Mark Labance, David Cook, and Scott Merker have all had issues. So they will go around and get their cars turned back in the right direction. Meanwhile, in the Jettas, Elias Roman, Ken Ausiel knows the tail. And Ken sitting in line here, Finney, looks like these guys are going to try to work together and break away from third place Kevin Zhu, Francois Brou, and the rest.
Yeah, obviously they want to keep it to themselves, at least in the leading pack, to keep it as small as possible. But yeah, it's Roman, Ausiel, Zhu, your top three. Brou also tailing in behind, trying to catch up to our leaders.
MX-5, Alessandrini clear by 9/10 of a second over Shrivastava and Ryan Maloney here, Greg. And this is really impressive that we're seeing DJ break out to this early of a lead here. We'll see if this other group of cars can keep up with them.
Yeah, after just about 2 laps in the books, DJ's a little bit further ahead than I might have expected this early on, but he seems to have a lot better pace through some of the twistier sections of the track, for example, down through the S's here at Road Atlanta.
Whoa, and for the 87 Shrivastava, he gets sideways out in the grass, almost wrecks it, but he's going to keep it going straight. Maloney going to get on by, however, for second place.
Well, these two fight. DJ's just slipping away into the distance. We knew it was going to be difficult to keep up with them, but not if they're, it'll be even more difficult if they're fighting, which they have done a little bit. There's Jake King in behind the 39, Sam Scott in the 98. It's been a while since we've seen him here in the DC Region SCCA, so good to see him back tonight as they come down the S's now for the second time under speed. David Stern, who had a big slip up on the S's on lap number 1, he sits in 7th behind them. I think that was Evan Schickel and Colin Dater in the 23 car. He had all sorts of issues coming down the hill sideways, left and right.
Yeah, now going to try to make a move, going to be side by side with Schickel, or going to try to have a look to the inside into turn 6 there. He's going to try to pull up, make a dive. Schickel going to close the door.
Up front in the Volkswagens, Roman and Ausiel, they've been working hard, but they have not been able to pull away from Kevin Zhu. Greg, these cars don't have a lot of power, and they do punch a pretty big hole in the air, so the draft should be pretty strong.
Exactly, and you know, I think the biggest issue you have with these cars, because you said the draft is so strong, is to try not to use too much of the curbing, to try and keep both of the front wheels on the ground and roll out of the corners as quickly as possible.
And you see the cars kind of hopping around a little bit. These, I know that our buddy Tom O'Gorman loves driving these things. He thinks they're a hoot. I think they're kind of fun to watch, but they got 3 of them, and they're dead silent. I promise you the sound is on right now as we watch these guys come down the hill.
You know, it's funny. I was telling the guys off camera here that I was driving one of the TDI Cup cars last night at the Gateway in St. Louis, or what's now called, I think, Worldwide Technology Park, and they are dead silent when you're in the car. But I'll tell you, having watched a number of TDI Cup races in real life, spent quite a bit of time following a good friend of mine, AJ Neely, who ran in the series back in the, I guess, 2012, 2013 time frame. When these cars go by, there is just absolutely no sound at all except from the tires, because they came with absolutely miserable Pirelli slicks, and all you hear is tires squeal, even in a straight line.
That's pretty awesome. But these front two continue to pull away. There's 40 minutes left on the clock. It's going to seem like an eternity, but now they've gapped Kevin Zhu slightly as we're going to jump back to the field, because Greg Obadia is holding up Daniel Gross in the 72 and Evan Schickel in the 33. He has a look up the inside of the 72, side by side through turn number 7.
Yeah, and that's not a good way to get a good run out of turn 7 on the back straight, and that might allow Obeidy actually to start sneaking away just a little bit, and I think he's actually already evaded the draft there because of that too wide situation.
Yeah, and you see the 33 Schick looks like a heaping amount of curve to the inside, gonna keep it going straight, didn't make a mistake. Oh, as he's gonna try to still squeeze it to the inside of the 72, gonna take some grass through there. These guys fighting very aggressively for their spots.
And it looks like DJ Alessandrini's actually passed Dave Fitzgerald in the trailing TDI car here. So, Finney, we've already got MX-5s kind of infiltrating the group here.
And I want to make a note on this too, because the fastest car on the track is none of the Jettas but DJ and his MX-5.
Oh,
so
boy.
we could see DJ drive himself back up and take the overall lead away.
Could see.
Very unheard of.
I think that's likely. I think there was some discussion over which class should be the higher class. And I think the TDI generally is the faster car, but you put a group of talented drivers like DJ, Maloney, Shrivastava, King, and Scott in it, they're going to be faster than the TDIs, and they're showing that right now. All 5 of those cars were quicker than the race leader in TDI, so it's going to be really interesting to watch them fight here.
At the rate they're going, they're definitely going to catch them. They're putting a second on the going a second a lap faster than the Jetta, so they're going to catch them before the race is over.
Up at the front, still the train of TDI. This straightaway has just got to feel like it takes forever, Greg.
Forever. Yeah, it certainly does, and again, since it's so quiet in the cockpit for those drivers, I mean, it's a good time to just kind of sit back and relax a little bit, and then try to figure out how you're going to end up taking turn 10A. Now, you mentioned, and of course, Tom O'Gorman, who we all know, thinks driving these cars are a hoot. One of the things that they're just absolutely wild at, and for some of the turns here, you might find it useful, but I don't think you have, maybe with the exception of turn 3, you don't really have quite the number of switchbacks that you really would want to do it, but they work very well under trail braking, that you can really make these cars pretty much rotate right around the front wheels and get the back end very, very loose. They are kind of a hoot to drive once you realize what the suspension limits are of the car.
So Kevin Zhu trailing Roman and House-Seal as they head down the hill now for what will be the 5th time. Meanwhile, in MX-5, Alessandrini's lead, it has sort of stalled at 0.8 of a second. Maloney and Shrivastava keeping him honest here. Fitzgerald has fallen down to about 15th or 16th overall as another group of MX-5s goes on by. So Fitzgerald with very minimal practice after jumping out of the Z4 GT3 into this. I don't think, Finney, that there is more of a polar opposite than a BMW Z4 GT3 car and a Volkswagen Jetta TDI.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they might both be German, but they drive completely differently. And Fitzgerald's trying to just navigate through while not being a hazard for the MX-5 traffic as they're trying to find their way around this Jetta.
It's the 20. But
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kyle.
I was gonna say there's the 23 Colin Dana working his way around as well, and he's up to looks like 12th in class after starting 13th. So pretty good start so far. New livery on board that car as well this week, correct?
Yeah, a couple changes. I think a few weeks ago he had been running University of Frederick, Maryland paint job on that car. Now, if you'll notice, just ahead of him, however, is that battle still going on between Evan Schickel and David Stern, the 33 and the 29 car. They were just once again side by side coming out of turn number 7, and Greg Obeidy starting to lose some ground to those, or not lose ground, but starting to see that gap that he had built up the previous lap disappear.
There is Jake King and Sam Scott as DJ Alessandrini just gotten by the 5th place TDI. That's Joe Camilleri in the number 6. So through goes DJ into 5th place overall. His last lap, a 137.478. The leader, overall leader's best lap was a 138.702. As we've had issues for Ryan Maloney, he's going to hit pit lane. Some damage on that car. I'm not sure if this is why he's hitting pit lane or if there was another issue. But let's go back and try to see if I can find what happened to Ryan Maloney.
He just came into the pits and
found it. Exited turn number 5. Was just out of control and then hit the concrete and probably damaged the suspension there. Maloney, good start. He'll end the day, or at least end his run for the race win down in 21st in class. Roman and House-Seal still nose to tail. They're going to be like this for the next 35 minutes, guys, so better get used to seeing this. But they have put Francois Brou quite a distance behind them.
Yeah, and this is, again, going back to what the TDI series ran in real life. This was very much like what you would see in real TDI Cup driving. Now, the interesting thing about the TDI series is it was primarily for drivers that were, the majority of the drivers were under 20 years old, most of them just coming out of go-karts at the time. And one of the big challenges that they had, I talked about the great quality of the Pirelli tires that are shot on these cars. The biggest challenge was seeing as a driver whether or not you could actually make it through an entire race without not just burning off the front tires, which some of these kids did very often, but also keeping the tires from exploding on you, which was a very common occurrence in the TDI Cup. And of course, one of the interesting things about the series was the drivers, of course, didn't own any of these identically prepared cars, and what they would do, very much like some of the other series, like the W Series, Formula Series, is they would actually swap cars I think every 2 races, and if you finished on the podium, it would guarantee that you would have a different car for the next race in order to try and keep everything as even as possible. The big thing, of course, for these very young drivers, and unfortunately for a lot of them, it didn't keep them from getting into incidents, but there was a very big fee involved if you bent any sheet metal with these cars, and of course, in many cases, it was daddy paying maybe daddy and mommy paying for that. And I only know of maybe 1 or 2 drivers over the couple of seasons that didn't make it through an entire season because they couldn't afford to pay their way.
Oh, man. Oh my goodness. Well, I also know that I'm pretty sure that these cars had a rollover problem. Didn't they get them up on 2 wheels and they just tipped right over? That's at least what Tomo told me.
I never saw any go over on their roof like a B-Spec car during one of the races. But again, certainly seeing them on 2 wheels was not an uncommon occurrence.
Here is Evan Schickel to the inside of Greg Obadia. Whoa, that got really tight there. This is for 6th in class. Move Schickel there, and Obadia is still going to have a nose inside as they head up through 10B, but Schickel will carry the momentum around the outside and have that spot as they head down through 12 now. About 10 minutes into this race, Elias Roman leads in TDI. Big slide there for Obadia as they came down the hill.
Yeah, good catch by Obadia coming down a really big slip angle there when you're foot to the floor, and probably during an upshift.
There's Murphy Nichols in the number 5 car. He started 11th. He's dropped back, but working on Steve Muller on the inside through turn number 1. A very spectacular looking livery on that car, the Smoketown Brewing Station livery on the number 5. As they head side by side, here comes Frank Taberzi in the 12. He's going to go up driver's left as they head to turn 3.
And here, even Thomas Lee's coming to the background, so it's about to be a 4-car battle for this one position, all duking out for 14th in class.
Yeah, and you could see there as they were all trying to navigate, find their way through turn 3 there, how difficult that was. They seemed to all make it work, but for a moment there, it looked like a couple of the cars almost came to a complete standstill as they realized they couldn't go 3 wide as they came up through 2 and tried to set up for 3.
Gosh, the TDIs make the MX-5 sound like the Porsche GT Le Mans car. Every time they come by,
I say they could make a big wheel sound like a Le Mans car.
They just put speakers on them and have them play real race car sounds. As they come down the hill, 31 minutes to go. Roman, Hausiel, and Zeus still lead the way in TDI. And Hausiel is, what's the strategy here, Greg? I mean, are you just going to run like this or until the end of the race, or is he going to get impatient, go for a pass here? We might have that question answered for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you might have the question answered. If it were me, what I'd try to do, and I think Hausiel's got the right idea here, is you try to unsettle the driver ahead of you, make him drive offline just a little bit, and see if he has the car control and if he can figure out what the actual handling dynamics of the car is when you're not driving that optimal line through some of these corners.
Yeah, and Elias Roman had exactly that happen to him. He was offline out of turn 3. That messed up the entire section. It was very sloppy for him and allowed Hausiel to try to catch back up. We'll see if it's going to really help him anything down the back straightaway.
Yeah, because one of the challenges, the TDI Cup, it's not a very difficult car to catch if it starts to go around, on you. Again, it's a front-wheel drive car. Typically, what you do is you just put your foot to the floor, mash the throttle, and let the front wheels pull you out. But the challenge that you have is because of the grip levels of the tires on these cars, it's sometimes a little bit more difficult than you expect, and you kind of reach that limit of swapping into understeer from oversteer very, very quickly.
Into turn 10A this time, Roman continues to lead the way. Ooh, is there a touch there maybe with House Seal right in the back of the 99? I don't think there's any sense of urgency right now, so they're going to still enjoy this. Now, the question is, here's DJ Alessandrini, who is very quickly catching them. For Greg, is there a little bit of a competition here? Maybe not an official one, but maybe a little bit of a bragging rights thing if DJ can go up here and win this race overall.
I don't know if he's thinking about that, but then again, after the race that he ran last weekend on the Esports Super Tour at Mid-Ohio, where he admitted to, I believe, murder, if I remember correctly, in order to pick up one position, you might see that. I mean, he might get the red mist, but as he looks back, and I believe he's got right now about a 4-second gap back to Shrivastava. He's got a lot of time to try and work his way through.
I can bet you under the helmet right now the DJ's thinking, yeah, I'm going to beat drivers that are not even in my own class. That's just the driver that DJ is.
Not only that, he's going to beat drivers in the class that are above him. Usually it's the other way around. You're passing the other class because they're slower cars. That's not the case right now. You just saw David Stern get by. I believe that was Daniel Gross in the 72 that had a bit of an issue at the exit of turn number 1. Deeper in the field, there are a couple battles, but the closest ones right now, how about Evan Schickel and Greg Obadia? These two have been next to each other the whole race here.
Yeah, they've not been able to get separated from one another here, and it's looking like Obadia might be able to get a solid run here, working out at turn 7 onto the back straightaway to try to get a draft on the 33. Didn't really get a good exit, though. Schickel did it, however.
Here is Sam Scott, Katil Natterboff as they work by the 6 of Joe Camilleri. They're going to draft right on by him.
Yeah, and that's actually a neat little livery with the Volkswagen Harlequin paint job there. Now I would expect as they draft on by that when Camilleri pulls back over, we'll see here. Camilleri thought for a moment here he might be able to outbrake the MX-5s going in, but now right behind him, both Schickel and Obadia are going to have that big hole in the air that Camilleri is going to build up for them.
Yeah, and we also are seeing a fairly large gap now between at least the front 3 and MX-5. DJ has a 4.6 second lead over Mark Shrivastava right there in the 87. Then it's 5.5 back to find Jake King. There he is. So Sam Scott and Natterboff having a good fight for this position, and Schickel and Obadia now in behind the 6 car as they head up in the hill towards turns 2 and 3, Finian.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say, Dave Fitzgerald's in the booth with us.
Hey Dave, how are you?
Fine, thanks. I got nothing better to do apparently, so here I am.
Well, we saw you out there in the TDI, and it didn't look like it was necessarily going the greatest for you. I mean, that was a big jump to go from the Z4 to a car like this. How was that transition like?
Terrible, very terrible. Apparently, they're nothing alike.
I mean, it's a race car. It's a German race car. They all got to handle the same.
It's German.
Yeah, I guess maybe I should have drove it backwards. Maybe that would have helped.
Might have made more sense, honestly. Probably sounded cooler, too. At least you'd have the gear noise go in that direction. But these things are dead silent, David. Is that also kind of playing into the challenges? Is in a Z4, you got all the engine noise in the world to help you, get your shift points right, and then you go to a car like this that revs so low and makes no noise. Is that a big transition?
It absolutely is. There's everything is different. The acceleration, the braking, the turning, the noise. The Z4 makes a beautiful noise. This thing makes like a vacuum cleaner noise. And it was funny when we all started off. Usually when there's 6 or 7 cars in a row, it's like an orchestra. Now it was just like a mower race, an electric mower race.
So race leaders down through turn 3 right now, 26 minutes to go. DJ Alessandrini, though, Dave, we talk about him all the time because he's always up at the front. Today, though, he's in a class of his own, basically, and it seems like DJ's got his MX-5 going a whole lot faster than the race leaders. We were asking, how we know DJ's competitive. Do you think he's thinking about winning this race overall, or is he just focused on winning his own category?
Oh, he's focused on winning this race and the race afterwards. He's just so focused. The MX-5 in this case is a faster car. You know, he qualified on pole, and because of sort of a mess up with the iRacing hosting session, the Jettas ended up in front because they have a relative speed that's 2 miles an hour faster. But they're not really. I mean, you'll see soon the Jettas will probably fall back after about 30 minutes or so.
Really interesting dynamic. Again, we don't really get to see a lot of front-wheel drive racing on SimTV, and we haven't really done. I don't think there's a lot of front-wheel drive cars. Of course, there's the Finian, there's the TCR, there's the Jetta, and the Kia. That's pretty much it, I think, for front-wheel drive cars, isn't it?
Yeah, the guys were really happy about. Well, a month ago they were happy about driving this car, but let's take another poll after this.
Well, yeah, we'll have to ask the other 5 cars the other 5 drivers that are still out there, Dave.
I'm pretty sure I won't win an argument to have this next year.
Yeah, I don't think you'll be the one arguing for it either. But as we head through turn number 1, Kevin Zhu, Hausil, and Roman still 1, 2, 3. Then we go back to DJ. He's still leading the field by about 6 or 7 seconds in GMX5. Schickel and Sam Scott. Ooh, big slide for the 98 out of turn number 12 here, Greg. Scott's putting the pedal to the metal there, but losing a spot, I believe, to this 33.
Yeah, it looks like he's lost another spot to the 33, and Greg Obadia, or Obadiah as I like to call him, is kind of knocking on the door right now as they come up through turn 2, and we'll see now as they pop over the curbing at 3, and you can see Obadia all 4 wheels in the air with the commitment there, and I think the 98 car might be in trouble as they come out of turn 5, because Obadia's got a lot of speed coming down the hill.
Dave, that's going to be another challenge to driving this particular front-wheel drive car at this racetrack. The Jetta is sort of springy and bouncy, and these big, tall curbs here had to mean it was a pretty rough ride out there, especially through the S's.
You're not wrong there, mate. It just was pogoing from side to side. It's terrible. I bet you those tires will last 40,000 miles because they only touch the ground every third rotation.
Oh man, I don't think Dave's on the marketing team for Volkswagen anytime soon.
No.
As they come down the hill.
Apparently, I was talking about AJ Neely earlier. AJ was actually one of our past Mars champions in ITA as well, and he's told a lot of stories in the paddock at Summit Point. Let's put it this way: as we look now, we've got battle for the lead here. Shrivastava moves up to the inside. Not Shrivastava. Hussein moves up to the inside of Roman. Can't get it done going through turn 1 though.
Yeah, I gotta imagine these guys are gonna get on board at some point, being the exact same order, the exact same distance from each other for the last, I think, 10 laps. I'm amazed that we haven't not seen these guys shuffle around at all.
I mean, how difficult is it out there, Dave? I mean, I think we wouldn't see more passing. Again, there's only 5 cars in this class and really 3 in this front fight, so there's no reason not to battle. Is it that difficult to get a run? And what's the draft like in this car?
I don't have enough experience up there with the draft. I mean, I know the guys were talking about engine temp. Apparently, once it gets over 230 or something like that, it goes into sort of a limp mode. So they're really being careful about that. And I know that at least Ken, and I don't want to give away his strategy, he says he might be fuel saving. So he may drop back a little bit, or he may just try to sneak up underneath the wing of who's Elias?
Yeah,
Elias.
Yeah, it's Roman sitting at the front. And, well, as long as he sits back in the draft in second position there, he's, already saving a little bit of gas, maybe. Probably not as much. Oh, and look at this as they come down into turn 10A, and Sue moved to the inside there for a second. Looks like he was doing his best to avoid Hausil under braking.
So Dave actually brought up an interesting point. I remember this discussion from the iRacing forums a few weeks ago. If you follow these the car in front of you too closely for too long, the motor will just grenade itself. I don't know if that's accurate behavior, but I have heard that is the case. So that's probably what they're talking about, is he can go way out to the exit curb at turn number 1. So they're going to have to keep a pretty close eye on those temps, because from what I've heard, it doesn't give you a big warning. It'll just go pop, and that's the end of the day. So I have to keep an eye on that.
I don't know about, going pop or no warning, but these cars are virtually stock cars. So the intake, I'm sure, is very pedestrian, and they just don't have the cooling that a race car could have, and they're just not built for this sort of thing. It was a terrible choice all around.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say SCCA Pro maybe didn't make the best choice either when they started running these cars, and
until they cashed that fat check.
Exactly. Yeah, until VW stopped. Anyway, but I think one of the big things here, and Dave hit upon it, is these cars, with the exception of a bolt-in cage. And Volkswagen also did a lot of work to beef up the DCT transmissions, or I forgot what VW calls the DCT, but they had to beef up the transmissions a little bit because they actually also had overheating issues. But other than that, and you know, the tires, which I've said so much about already, there wasn't a heck of a lot beyond how these things were coming off the showroom floor.
Oh, there goes Elias Roman a little wide at the exit of 12, and Halsey had planned that for a while. He finally gets somewhat clear of Elias Roman down into turn number 1. Big slide for him. The Roman's going to cross him over. Bit of contact through
Roman's
turn 1.
Going to try and come underneath.
Oh, here comes DJ Allison Jr. with a head full of steam, nowhere to go as he's trying to work around Kevin Zhu. We got a 4-way battle for the overall lead, and one of these guys is not in the same class.
It's like following a school bus with how big that car is, and it probably smells like it too back there as he's following the front trio. You can't even see him back
there. Diesel school buses or anything, but...
The exit of turn 5 now, less than 20 minutes to go. There's DJ popping out of line. That's for 3rd overall. And Elias Roman had to look for the race lead, but here comes DJ up the inside. That car is like driving an RC car next to a pickup truck. It's so tiny as they go through turn number 7. That's a hilarious look as they come through onto the front, onto the back straightaway here.
One of these cars is not like the other.
No, Sue gave him a lot of room coming through turn 7, but it cost Sue, as you can see here, about a car length and a half, as Alessandrini's finally going to dispatch him down the front straight here. And this is about where the Volkswagens just kind of run out of steam. That they really do rely on the draft to keep moving, but you can see that straight line speed that the Mazda has over the VWs. It looks like we got another battle for the lead here at the front.
Yeah, Roman really chucked it down the inside, going to cross him over, gets a run, puts the bumper to him, as here comes DJ for the overall lead to driver's right, gets run through the grass in turn number 11, now down the hill, DJ goes to P2. Greg Obadiah's had an issue in his MX-5, so he'll drop down the order. As we look at the battle for the overall lead, DJ Alessandrini in the number 61 MX-5. Easily hit by Halsey. Halsey gives him space. New race leader as the TDI's battle as they head up the hill.
Well, yeah, and the challenge for Halsey is as he gave Alessandrini room going into turn 1 and had to, by necessity, turn in just a little bit later, as he really opened up the door there for Kevin Sue, but Sue couldn't really do anything about it, or actually Elias Roman, pardon me, couldn't do anything about it.
One of these is not like the other, as Finian said a couple of laps ago, as the DJ tries to drive away. Let's quickly jump back throughout the rest of the field. There's Sean Cromwell in the number 31. He's back here fighting Colin Daner. That's for 10th in class in GMX5. Bit of a slide for Daner. That's a weird spot to get loose at the crest of turn 2 into turn 3, but he's gathered it back up. And Daner's race, we mentioned he started in 13th. Here he is in 11th still. He's actually gained some spots after originally losing some.
Yeah, and even for Cromwell up ahead, he's moved back from 21st all the way to 15th, so he's moved even more spots than Daner, so he's at a decent climb forward.
Now we have to wonder, with 17 minutes to go, you see Ken Halsey now drafting off of the MX-5. I can't imagine that's the most efficient thing we've ever seen, but he's starting to gap Elias Roman, so I guess, Dave, you said you didn't have a lot of experience in the draft here, but do you think that Zhu and Roman can work together a little bit, or is Halsey kind of off and free to run the rest of the race by himself?
Well, I can't imagine that he would get much. Ken would get much of a draft off of DJ, but yeah, if those two guys are smart, they would just make a little pact and just climb up closer and closer, just pick them off, a second a lap sort of thing. I guess both of those freight trains going down the back straight could probably do pretty well.
Here's a look at Evan Schickel in the 33. He was to the inside of Sam Scott. It looks like just got too much curb on the inside there, Greg, and those curbs are pretty gnarly down there in 10A, and too much, and around went Evan Schickel. He'll drop to 6th in class right now.
Yeah, those gator teeth are really very, very deep there, and it's not uncommon to have your front suspension thrown off by almost 1/4 of an inch if you go over them the wrong way. So really cost Schiffel quite a bit there as we go back up to the front of the pack.
Yeah, Alseal's staying in quite close. I'm actually kind of surprised with that. I would have thought DJ would have just taken off into the distance, but yeah, Alseal, in fact, he's keeping him honest right behind.
Well, I don't want to break your heart, but I think DJ has slowed down to have a little bit of fun here. You see his best lap time is a 1:37.4. He just ran almost a 1:39. So I think he's slowing down, and maybe these two are coordinating to pull Ken Alseal away from Roman and Zoo, and I can't imagine there's a ton of draft, but it's something, and it looks like that appears to be what's going on, where DJ is actually towing Alseal along.
I would not put it past those two characters.
They try anything, and it looks like that's what they're doing.
That's the sound of bitterness coming from.
Oh yeah, bitterness with a capital B. That's me.
All right, 15 minutes to go. DJ leads overall. Alseal leads in TDI Cup. Deeper in the field, Sam Scott and Khalil Natterboff are fighting for 4th in class. That is your closest battle, other than Lance Snyder in the 75. This is a new name to the series. Frank Taberzi in the 12. This is for 18th in class right now.
So if we have a couple minutes, how'd you guys feel about the VRG race?
I love GT3 cars. I love how they sound. I love the car diversity. A little messy out there, but hey, it was a lot of fun to watch, and it was a good race, I thought.
Gives us a little preview of hopefully what our next season's going to be.
Yeah, so I guess maybe now's a good time to announce that, or do you want to wait till after the race? Or what's the best time for you, Dave?
Whenever you're ready, my man.
All right, well, let's do it. So, I don't have a graphic for it, but our next season is going to be, for the Washington, D.C. Region SCCA iRacing League, will be beginning on June the 5th at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And we're going to be running the GT3 class machinery, the Audi R8 GT3, the BMW Z4, the Ferrari 488, the McLaren MP412C, and the Mercedes AMG GT3. And the season goes as follows. Looks like what we got, 8 consecutive weeks, Mosport, Sonoma, Silverstone, Road America, Suzuka, Coda, Spa, and Watkins Glen International. That's what's coming up for the DC Region SCCA next season. And Dave, this is going to be a bit of a departure from the more SCCA-oriented categories that we've seen in seasons past. We're going to pick up the speed and probably pick up the action as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We ran a poll at the end of last season. Before the end of this season, and the guys seemed to want a bit more faster cars and a little bit more of a challenge, and they wanted longer races. So it was a bit of a toss-up. There was still some people that wanted the 2 sprint races per evening. So you can see in that schedule we're alternating 1 hour and then 2 by 25-minute races. So I think you're right. It is a little different than what we're used to. But I think it'll be a nice change.
And if you're interested in running that series, again, I believe you do have to be an SCCA member, but you can head to www.wdcr-scca.org/virtual racing, and I will post that in the chat for anybody that is interested in participating. And also, there is a special event next Friday, May 29th. That is going to be the Kurd Derby at Road America. That is a 2.4-hour race with the V8 Supercar and Porsche Cup car. As far as I know, it's not being streamed, but if it's not being streamed, I'll be running in it.
Please do. Yeah, no, we're not going to stream it. We just wanted to be a little low-key, something to do between seasons, and again, something a little different, and I don't think you get much different than the Supercar and Porsche.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with the Supercar myself, so I'm probably going to enter in that machine, because I've been having a blast with that car, just chucking it around a lot of tracks.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it as a team, or you're gonna Ironman it?
I'm probably going to Ironman. I think Kyle wants to drive in the Porsche.
Yes. I think that's probably going to be the case. I'm just more comfortable in the Porsche Cup car, I think. I think that's kind of, that's my bread and butter. I don't dislike the V8. I just think the Porsche is kind of where I'm at. So I think that'll be, I might stream that from my driving perspective. So that'll be right here on the SimTV channel next Friday. So make sure you keep your eye out for that. Again, you can find out more information at the WDCR website or on the WDCR Discord, Dave. There's also that link there as well. So lots of exciting things coming up in the summer. Of course, real racing is sort of starting back up here and there, but the virtual racing is just as strong as ever.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with the way that this has been embraced. But we're really waiting for the real stuff to happen. So we'll just keep it going until then. And I'm sure Greg's already filled you in on the dates of events that are coming up.
Well, yeah, of course.
Was I supposed to know about something, Greg? All right, so down into turn number 1. We've got about 11 minutes to go. So that's what's coming up next season. Of course, the Sim TV will be covering the entirety of the next WDCR season right here on Sim TV, and make sure that you're tuned in. It'll be on Friday nights again, same time that you're watching now, and also make sure that you're taking advantage of the live timing and scoring at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. That's a new feature we're testing out, so it's still a little bit buggy, but we're trying and giving it a shot here. It is in effect right now, so simtvbroadcasting.com/timing. Fourth place has been a heck of a battle here, Finian. Khalil Natterboff and Sam Scott and Joe Camilleri. This is 8th, 9th, and 10th overall.
Yeah, and these guys have not been really able to get separated from one another. Natterboff trying to keep Scott in behind, but obviously that draft, hard thing to defend. You can see Scott trying to, or all the way to the back bumper the night too. He's actually giving him a shove. I think it looks like they're doing a little bit of a bump draft down the back straightaway.
A lot of a bump draft here, Greg, and that's something that the MX-5s love to do, but it can be a little risky, especially if you don't get off the bumper before turn 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say as long as you give yourself a little bit of separation under braking going into 10A, like we see here. Now, you know, with this race with these two cars, they spent quite a number of laps right behind the VW of Joe Camilleri, and somehow managed to both work their ways around Camilleri on the same lap. And it doesn't look like this is going to slow down at all. If we go a little bit further back, great battle going on right behind them as well, and that's Sam Scott and Evan Schickel that have been very, very close for quite a number of laps as well. And that, as we see here, that is the battle for 5th.
That's yeah. So there's Sam Scott, and we're looking at William Teller. This is 6th and 7th in class, 11th and 12th overall. Yeah. So Teller and Schickel, 6th and 7th. As we check back a little bit deeper in the field, Sean Cromwell and Colin Daner, they've been having a battle for the entire night that has not yet fizzled out here. So they've been enjoying this. This 45 minutes has gone by pretty quickly for these guys. They've been having fun. Big slide, though, for the 31 as they head down the hill.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is they've got the number 25 car sitting in the battle with them. That's Ryan Maloney. And Maloney had been sitting between, and of course, Maloney, we saw towards at the start of the race, was up at, in the top, I think the top 4. And now he's sitting back all the way back in 16th. He had been right in the middle of that race between Murphy Nichols and Ryan Porter, but now seems to have managed to work his way clear.
And Lance Snyder and Frank DeMerzi, these two have been having a scrap for quite a while. There's Snyder in the 75, that's the blue, purple, and cyan car, and Frank DeMerzi in the yellow and white one right behind him. That's battle for 18th in class, 23rd overall. As I am seeing that we have about 8 minutes to go, and DJ and Ken have been working together, and Dave, it looks like their cooperation has been quite successful in pulling Ken away from Elias Roman and Kevin Zhu.
I'm not surprised at all. These guys, they're both the cream of the crop for our league, and it's not surprising that they're just up here playing sort of cat and mouse.
Yeah, very much so. I've seen Ken trying to have a dig at you, DJ, and DJ's has been constantly trying to defend him in behind. So they're having their own little bit of fun up here by themselves.
Well, I'm glad we could give them a platform.
Oh, here it goes to the inside. Big dive in turn number 7.
I bet you if you jump in their Discord, it'll be a lot of nattering.
That's so. As Ken will tuck back in line behind DJ and drop a little bit deeper in the field to find out who else is having, what'd you say, a nattering? The Natterboff and Sam Scott continue their battle for a 4th place position in class.
That's a good segue.
Whoa, big understeer for Sam Scott. Was a little bit late turning in. You see how much momentum that kills coming off the corner there, Greg. Turn 7. It was important in the GT3s, but even more important in a car with only 180 horsepower.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As you come out of turn 7 there, if you don't carry speed, and you saw he carried a lot more speed into the corner than Khalil Natterboff, but found the big purple rear end of Natterboff's there right in front of him. Had to check up just a little bit, and that in combination with the understeer was pretty deadly. As we see that battle still closing down right behind him with Scott and with Schickel and is that Schickel now?
It is Schickel and Scott in front of them, and William Teller is back behind. As David Stern, I believe, has had an issue in the 29 car. Let's go back and see. He might have just been slow, but there was Ryan Maloney to the inside, and was there a touch here maybe? He was just letting on Ryan Maloney, just kind of overslowed for the corner, so it kind of tripped up my spidey senses as he came down the hill. So Up back in front, though, these two, my eye is drawn to the close gaps, and I'm afraid that Ken's going to get in here and do deep one time and wipe out DJ. That would be a sight to see.
Yeah, it really is. So far, so good between these guys, but, you know, that's as you're saying, all it takes is just one wrong move from these guys, and both of them could potentially be out of the race. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Maybe I'll just rejoin for the last 5 minutes and really mess all this
just
up.
mix it up. There's some collusion out there, is what I'm hearing, as Sean Cromwell and David Stern run 10th and 11th. Whoa, Stern way up and over the turn 5 exit curve. And Greg, that's a curve that you can really use to your advantage, but it's very bumpy out there. And we've seen a number of drivers in pretty much all levels of racecraft get up on that outside curve, and they'll slip and slide and correct right into the concrete wall there.
Yeah, they either correct directly into the concrete there, or they'll hit the corner, and there's right at the front edge of it where you actually drop off into a gravel trap. It will send the car bouncing through the air, and what will happen is many times when the car comes down, the rear end will get loose. The driver will overcorrect and end up putting themselves into the wall driver's left.
That happened a number of times. If any of you remember back to Scar's Ferrari Challenge a few weeks ago, they had a number of issues at the exit of turn number 5, including a massive 12-car pileup that sent a couple cars skyward. But well, it's a tricky corner for sure. As we come now down to the last 5 minutes, it'll be 3 laps to go next time by for the overall race leaders, as now they're getting into some pretty heavy lap traffic, which has been interesting tonight, to say the least, starting out with the VRG group earlier in the evening.
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit less of a problem for these guys in this race. I guess, you know, the closing rate's not as bad as we saw in the VRG race.
I'm trying to, you can't even see most of the car. You just see the roll cage up when Ken's following DJ that close. That MX-5 is really minuscule. If you've ever sat in one of these, I actually fit better in an NA Miata than I do in an ND, just because of all the safety gear that they have in there now. All the interiors feel a lot more claustrophobic than the NA. I've driven a 1990 NA Miata, and I fit very nicely. I sat in an ND at an auto show and was very uncomfortable. It's a tiny little car compared to the Volkswagen, which is your family sedan here, right?
Yes, and I'll tell you, driving a Civic that's sized very similarly, as we have one of our cars go off all the way to the edge of the curbing. They're setting up for turn 12. You know, you sit in something like the Jetta or like my Civic, and you have almost a full foot of headroom because you have the driver's seat so low that there's just nothing there but room. And you could see those wonderful Pirellis with a lot of tire smoke in the air from the left rear of House Seal as he comes through turn 1.
3 minutes
I'm
ago.
actually somewhat. I was gonna say I'm kind of surprised that House Seals and the other Jettas are actually that the tires are holding up for this long a race.
And they actually really haven't dropped off all that much. It's about 0.6 of a second from House Seal's best lap to the one that he just ran. So they're hanging on okay. I'm sure they're not pleasant, but at least they're not losing that much pace overall. Daniel Gross in the 72, Ryan Maloney. Maloney had an issue early in the race. Remember, he spun at the exit of turn number 5. Here he is working up inside the top 10 again. He's got a couple cars in front of him, starting with Daniel Gross in the 72. He's going to go to driver's right into turn number 3, back out and wait for a better opportunity here.
Oh, there might be a better one here as he come out of turn 3. Going to try to maybe make a move on the 72, but can't get it done. Through the S is going to try to follow him on single file.
Yeah, Ryan is one of those guys that has shown a lot of promise.
Whoa, there goes the 72.
Oh, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I was just talking about.
Yep, pretty much exactly. And this corner claims a lot of drivers all the time. No damage on that car. But if we go back and look, again, this is so easy to do, and you see this all the time, is when you make just a little mistake here, and it almost looked like there might have been a touch. I don't think there was. He was already sideways before he even got to the corner. You get to the exit curb right here, and it's just, the paint has so much less grip than the asphalt, and a very easy slip around for Gross. He does touch the barrier, but no damage to that 72.
I think the surface of those curbs don't help either.
Yeah, absolutely not. I was just going to say, this battle brewing here. Schickel's caught up to Samska and Naderbroff up ahead. Battle for 4th in class between these drivers.
Now 2 laps to go for the overall race leaders as these guys come down the hill to pick up 2 laps to go. Schickel, Scott, and Naderbroff 6th, 5th, and 4th in class. And they're all coming together very tightly here in a 3-car pack. Behind them, that is the 30 car of Thomas Lee. He is a lap down, not a factor, as these guys work through turn number 1 now for the penultimate tire.
Chico cranks the wheel really hard to the right to try to get a lane on Sam Scott. Can't get it done by turn 3. And actually Nadarov trying to break away now. These two guys are kind of in their own scrap for 5th.
Oh, loose is Schickel. Way out there. Right, that's about as far as you want to get out there on a curb, especially down through the S's. They're tall, but they're very narrow. You put a wheel over the edge of them, you're just on grass now.
Yeah, that was pretty much the limit that he could go without sending the car all the way around into the grass. And didn't lose nearly as much time as I thought he might. He's still in the game here with about a lap and a half to go.
Up out front, race leaders, both class leaders, nose to tail. They've been kind of co-opetitioning this entire time. They come down the hill, white flag in the air for DJ Alessandrini and Ken Alseal. And now, if there was any collusion or working together here, I think it's out the window now, because I think they're just going to have a good old fight to the end. It's 6.5 seconds back for Elias Roman. He is the 3rd place overall car and 2nd in TDI Cup. Then Shrivastava in the 87. That's that Oscar the Grouch car right in front of Kevin Zhu and Francois Brou. These two are actually closing back up. Brou has found some pace here in the closing laps, Finian.
Yeah, indeed he has, trying to catch back up to Kevin Zhu. He's been kind of stalking the top 3 of the entire race. He's been in 4th for a very long time. Trying to change there in the final lap so you can try to find some way around Zhu, who's right up the road.
Oh!
Camilleri, and I believe that's the 23 of Colin Daner. A massive crash on the back straightaway. What happened here? Back and see, and the 6 car was already spun out, strangely, in the middle of the back straightaway.
Oh, and he just tries to drive back on track. Oh.
Wow. Oh, we got a battle for the overall lead here, guys. Alseal has gotten back in front of DJ Alessandrini as we come off of that vicious impact on the back straightaway. That was just unsighted by the 6 car of Camilleri. Pulled back across the track now, side by side down the back straightaway for the overall race lead. Alessandrini's got the horses and a lower drag coefficient. Alseal's got the battering ram and the refrigerator shape of that Jetta as they head down into the final complex of corners here.
And you can see DJ now going to the inside, getting a little defensive here, coming into turn 10A for the last time, and really,
it's all over now.
Yeah, didn't give Alseal any type of chance there to make his way around as they come under the bridge for the last time.
Checkered flag, DJ Alessandrini wins overall here for the DC Region SCCA iRacing League. Season finale of the Season 2 here at Road Atlanta. We've also had an issue. Sam Scott has gone around at the exit of turn number 7. Or very briefly, when it jumped back, that was contact with a 28. He turns him around. That was the lap down car of Harry Horning in that car. So that was certainly a mistake there by Harry Horning. We also have a story about that 28 car that I will come back to at the end of the broadcast here. But Schickel and Naderbov, this is for 4th in class and 8th overall as Schickel comes down the hill, and looks like he will pick up top 5 results. So will Naderbov here. Chad Griffith and Max King, this is for 11th in class down into turn 10A. Max King, not probably the race that he was looking for here. Started 25th though, but he's going to come back in 11th after beating Chad Griffith.
It looks like we might have lost Chad Griffith going through 10B.
Yep. He'll go off, and we had the rest of the cars have already come on through. So checkered flag for Alessandrini, Alseal. They are your race winners. Elias Roman and Shrivastava, their 2nd place resultants, and then Kevin Zhu and Jake King, the bottom end of your podium here in DC Region SCCA iRacing League. Before we jump to break and talk about our race winners, I do want to go back and mention the number 28 of Harry Horning, because he messaged me earlier today and was mentioning the livery that he had on this car. And I have to go back here and pull this up. So basically, what he told me is that for Memorial Day, he's raising money for the VMAQ Monument Foundation. Basically, they're generated a trading paint scheme, and it's basically his idea was to donate $10 for every lap he completed. And it looks like he completed 27 laps this afternoon. So really well done by Harry Horning. So for a good cause there. So appreciate him for running that, although a bit of a dust up there on the final lap with a couple of drivers. But comes on through in 23rd in class. So here's a look at your race results as DJ Alessandrini and Ken Alseal win in their respective classes, Finian.
Yeah, a really solid job. Not too surprised that those guys are the winners in their class, especially with DJ helping Ken out a little bit, giving him a bit of a toe to work with to keep both of them up in front to claim those class victories.
Greg, sort of quiet up there for the TDIs once they got separated, but some good battles intermixed with the MX-5s, but a 45-minute race is not a short one at Road Atlanta, and we got our fair share of battles all throughout the rest of the field.
When you say it was kind of quiet up there for the TDIs, I didn't even think you were talking about the about the on-track action there. But yeah, actually a great race until we saw House Heel check out with the TDIs. A great three-way battle there for the lead, and of course, as DJ Alessandrini made his way from the front of our MX-5 field all the way through the entire Jetta field, and then you could see that he definitely dialed things back just a little bit. But you know, just as importantly, the rest of the MX-5 field, led by Mark Shrivastava and Jake King, they could not find their way back up to even a reduced pace DJ Alessandrini.
We're going to step away for a few minutes and talk to a couple of drivers that finished up towards the top of the field. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back live to Sim TV in the Washington, D.C. region SCCA iRacing League. We're here now with our overall and class winner, DJ Alessandrini, in his number 61 MX-5, brought to you by Hawk Performance. DJ, a fun race out there. It looked like you drove away from the MX-5 field, had a bit of a fun evening battling there with Ken. Walk us through your night, and was that collusion up there at the front working with Ken?
No, I think Ken just did a brilliant strategy with saving his tires behind Elias. And then when I inevitably came up, just because my car falls off less than his, then he just jumped in my draft and drove, was able to break the draft with his fresh tires. So, I mean, that was just a beautiful move from Ken. I was full on savage. I just wanted to win overall because I felt like I got robbed from iRacing by taking away my overall pole position in qualifying.
Craig, you got anything for DJ? I mean, that was pretty standard DJ Alessandrini race this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, other than the fact that I expected a little more of the one lap where Ken came underneath you going through turn 7. Thought maybe you were going to show him the little hip check there just to tell him who's boss. But no, pretty much exactly what I expected. And my big question was whether or not, as you came through the field, you had that overall win on your mind, and it looks like you did. You didn't waste much time making your way through the TDI Cup field.
Yeah, the Miata does not hip check. It only gets hip checked. So that wouldn't have played out well for me. But hey, before you guys kick me out of here, I just wanted to dedicate this race to my fiance, who puts up with me putting in hours on the sim and enabling me to chase goals and dreams. And I'm just internally grateful for her.
Awesome. Well, and good luck on your house search, DJ. I know that's forever going for you. So good luck on that. We'll see you the next time we see you, which should be soon. Not too far away.
Soon.
All right, DJ. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
On now to, looks like we've got Mark Shrivastava here, finished second place in GMX5. Couldn't quite keep up with DJ there, Mark, but had a good battle, and we're kind of intermingling with the TDIs throughout the rest of the night. Your thoughts on the race this evening?
Yeah, honestly, I just don't think I have the pace to keep up with DJ in the long run, so all I did was try to stay in his draft as long as I could. Unfortunately, pretty early on, I think lap 3 or something, got stuck in traffic a little bit, and he got away. And once he was out of draft, I couldn't keep up. He was just chipping away and going further away each lap. But good fun race anyway.
Got anything for Mark, Greg?
Am I supposed to say no?
Sure. I said we're going to keep him short tonight, so you feel.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say we'll keep it short. I think he said it pretty much. Now, Mark, did you have any? You said you got trouble. You had some trouble with traffic. What was it like trying to make your way through the field of Jettas? Of course, there were only, I think, 5 of them out there, but it looked like they kind of caused a few issues, seeing that they were running similar lap speeds or lap times and similar trap speeds around the track.
Yeah, I think it was just only a little bit early on. The pace is fairly similar. And really, it was just that one incident where I lost the gap to DJ and lost the draft. And once I'm out of the draft, I can't keep up. He's too quick. But the rest of the Jettas, I think, being in a Miata, the Miatas are faster down the straights anyway. So it's just being patient, waiting for the straights, and then you just drive right past them.
All right. Hey, Mark, thanks for talking to us. Hopefully we'll see you around again for the next season. Keep in touch. We'll see you later.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kyle.
Now, who's going to bring you into the shop next to be Elias Roman, second place in the TDI Cup category. Elias, that was something different out there tonight. Walk us through your evening.
Well, to me, I didn't think it was that much different than the Audi TCR cars I've been driving in various series. Qualifying was great. Then my plan was just to stick to a pace since these cars are a bit funny. When you get over like a certain coolant temp, it kind of cuts down the power on you. So I was trying to keep it under temps and kind of keep Ken behind me. But then he basically timed when DJ was coming perfectly. And once he got by me and DJ's toe, they were gone. And I had nothing left.
Our next season is going to be moving up to GT3 machinery. That's a big step up in speed category. Are you going to be running this next season in the GT3 cars? And are you excited to jump in something a bit faster?
I actually haven't decided yet. I actually don't have a GT3 car at my disposal. So, I'm going to give it some thought. And all
right, Elias. Hey, thanks for talking to us. Good run tonight in second place in TDI.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
SCCA.
Oh, hey, we got Ken Alceel in the booth here. Ken, hey, started this race. This was something really different and interesting. We'd never seen the TDI's race on SimTV before, but you ran behind Elias Roman for the first little bit, then traded spots and ran away with DJ. Walk us through your night.
Yeah, the first part of it. I mean, so the one tidbit about the Jettas, I don't know if Elias talked about it, but when they get over a certain coolant temperature, they start cutting power. So you really want to manage the temperatures. And I was just cruising around behind Elias trying to manage that and tires and everything. And then as soon as I knew DJ was going to catch us, the Miatas are a little faster here, and just tried to time it so I could be in front and get the draft off DJ and work through traffic and hope Elias had issues, and seemed to work pretty well. We're
stepping into GT3 cars for the next season here, and that's a car that I know you're fairly familiar with, but it's going to be a lot of drivers. We're going to have big fields, and we're going to some of the best courses, not only in the country, but around the world. Your thoughts in the next season as we head to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park here in a few weeks?
Yeah, man, I'm really excited for that. Admin team put together a great set of tracks for this, and we had a lot of discussions about what sort of format and pulled people, and it seems like a popular mix, and there's a lot of people really excited, so it should be huge fields and some good racing.
All right, Ken. Hey, congratulations on the race win tonight. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
And Alceel, race winner in TDI Cup. And is that all we're going to talk to you today? I think that might be it for tonight. But we had quite the event out there, Greg. 2 events this evening. We had VRG with us in the GT3 cars, and then the DC region SCCA. 2 interesting races for very different reasons.
Yeah, without a doubt, Kyle. Two very different formats. We got to see what the drivers do, and I think Ian put it best when he talked about the VRG racers who are used to driving 70 horsepower cars around some of the East Coast tracks, getting into these GT3 cars and having to deal with 500 plus horsepower, and how that affects them as drivers, but also racing for a fairly short sprint race, as opposed to what we saw in the DC region race with that 45 minutes. And it was interesting in talking to the TDI Cup drivers and how they had to really manage, not only tires, and the tires and brakes, but also had to look at how the engine was holding up and whether they were spending too much time in the draft raising those engine temps up so that they wanted to make sure that when it came down to the end of the race, they still had all the power available to them to take the checkered flag.
Vinny, and your thoughts on the GT3 race we saw tonight, because that was something different, and we're going to be racing GT3s starting at Motorsport on the 5th, so your thoughts on tonight's race and GT3 racing going forward for the DC SCCA.
Yeah, honestly, it was really nice to see these guys in some GT3 machinery. I'm really looking forward just to seeing, the Washington guys. This group of drivers, a really solid group. To see them in GT3 machinery. We have seen it in the past. It's been pretty interesting seeing, a few guys, but now they're running as the main car, having everyone on board. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping to see also a lot of diversity as well in the field, and I think it's going to be a really good change. And the track list too, especially, is going to be really something to look forward to.
All right, that's going to do it for us here tonight on Sim TV. The next thing you're going to see, it'll be tomorrow night. It'll be from the Milwaukee Mile Outsider Racing League action at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Then Sunday, GT Rivals with SRO Americas. Then, of course, the Competizione Esports Invitational. Then Monday, we'll be back with more three-wide Racing League action. Tuesday, Fuel, and we'll continue the schedule. Of course, we've got the next SCCA Esports schedule coming up as well on Thursday night, so keep your eye out for that on the SCCA official YouTube channel. For myself, Kyle Heyer, for Finian DeCuna, and Greg Ginsburg, it'll be it tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at the Milwaukee Mile for Outsider Racing League. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.